Hey, what's up? I'm Mike Rosica. I wanted to chat real quick about how we're going to be releasing this podcast. And since both Drew Paul Bell and myself have pretty active YouTube channels, what we've decided to do is to split it up. So, on the Young Architect YouTube channel, I'm going to post all of the episodes that are even numbered. So, episode 0, episode 2, 4. I'm going to post all the even numbered episodes. And Drew Paul Bell's going to take all the odd numbered episodes and post them on his channel. And so, to make it easy so you're not bouncing back and forth all these different episodes, I would first say both subscribe to both the Young Architect and the Drew Paul Bell YouTube channels. But what both of us are going to do is we've created a playlist on each of our YouTube channels called the Mike and Drew Architecture Podcast. And in that playlist, it's got all the episodes listed. And even though Drew Paul Bell, posted episode 3 on his channel, I can still add that to the playlist and have it sequential. And to make it even easier, I've created two links. I have youngarchitect.com/Mike, which will take you to the playlist on Young Architect channel, and youngarchitect.com/Drew, which will take you to the same playlist on Drew's channel. In some ways, it doesn't even matter whose playlist you're watching because they're the same exact videos. And so that's how we're going to do it is, Young Architect will post the even, Drew's got the odd numbers. And then in a couple of weeks down the road, after we get this playlist, this podcast kind of rolling out a little bit faster, we're going to strip the audio. We're just going to take the audio from all these and we're going to actually put it out as a podcast, the same way we publish the Young Architect podcast. We'll post it on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify. We'll get it out there. But for now, we're just releasing these on YouTube. So that's how we're doing it. And I hope you enjoy the new show. Take care, everyone. We're back. What's up, Drew?
Not too much, man. How about you?
Hey, pretty good. I think it's been 2 weeks. It feels longer.
Yeah, it's been a busy few weeks for me. But
yeah, me too. A lot going on. What's been happening, my friend?
So I think we talked last time about a lecture that I had coming up, and that was going on last Tuesday. So that's why I wasn't available last week. And it went really well. It was a talk at Kansas State University for their APD Pro program, where it's architecture, planning, development. And it was good, man. I spent some time developing like a talk, and I delivered one of the keynote addresses at the Young Architect Conference when it was in Portland. And like, that was kind of one of my first serious forays into speaking. I had talked at, I shouldn't say that actually, because I had spoken at several events for college groups like AIAS and NOMAS back at my university. They invited me back to talk several times. And I spoke at Georgia Tech one time. And, but it was usually part of like roundtable discussions, or it was kind of like just a small little group. But this was like most of their program. And I think there was like 100 attendees when I looked at the count.
Big crowd.
And it went really good. We talked about like kind of how to be successful in design school, because, I feel like school, like public schooling in America, doesn't really train you how to be a creative. And people like Seth Godin talk about this a lot in his ebook, Stop Stealing Dreams. And then there was a TED talk by a guy, I think it was Sir Ken Robinson or something like that. And they basically explained that, like if you look at the way school is structured, it's kind of like, they kind of invented school during like the Industrial Revolution, and they were getting a ton of blowback from people who were using child labor, and they were like, whoa, we want our cheap labor, we want these kids working in these sweatshops for free. And then part of the concession was, hey, we're going to train these kids to be better employees for you. So we're going to train them to change classes at the sound of a bell. We're going to train them to do homework. They're going to get it right. Not about creativity, it's about selecting the right answer. So, and then they're taking multiple choice question tests, which is about selecting the right one, not generating something new. And then, you think that the creative side of school is like writing essays, because that's writing something new. But you're really just you're proving that you understand an idea that somebody else already described to you, is what those essays are. And there's very little creative thinking done in public schools, at least not what I went through. And I had like little tastes of it, but barely. So I felt like a fish out of water in architecture school, and it was a huge adjustment. So, I talked in the talk about handling that transition and maneuvering through it. First of all, you got to identify it, because I think a lot of people don't even know why they're struggling with design school.
Yeah.
They don't realize, hey, I haven't been trained to do this. This is completely different. And so we talked about some of a few steps in my process, and we talked about their process and kind of worked out some exercises. I think it went really well. The engagement was pretty good. It was hard to tell because you're on Zoom, but there was about 9 people who had their screens on out of 100, and they were all participating really well. And
Yeah.
I got good comments when I was like, "Hey, what do you guys think about this?" And let me know in the comments. I got good activity there. So the woman who I was working with said that engagement was really high, and that they're not like that for most people. So
Oh, it's good.
yeah, so it went great.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm hoping there may be some more opportunities coming out. I haven't quite marketed myself as a speaker, although I have the YouTube channel, or I obviously talk on the YouTube channel. But it's always been interesting to me, and I have done like several things like that in the past. So I'm hoping it could turn into some more opportunities. And I got the one talk now that I think I can kind of refine for other student groups. I think it'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe reach out to a couple of schools,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of pitch them a couple ideas.
Yeah. I'm working on like a speaking resume.
Yeah. I'm actually doing the same thing right now too. I have so much speaking, but I don't, it's not, if you look at youngarchitect.com, there's no like the Michael Rosica lectures, there's no place for them, And so, I've been in the process of kind of writing, a page that kind of acknowledges all the speaking I've done and how to get in touch with me and the things I talk about. So.
How do you think you market yourself that way? Like, do you just put it on your resume, then you go ask for it, or do you think that
well, I feel like a lot of my speaking that I've done has always been me chasing it down, me saying, "Hey,
yeah.
I'm going to drive across the country, and these are the places I'd like to speak," and just putting it out there and kind of just planting seeds and kind of following up and having a system in place to kind of follow up with that. So that's how a lot of it's happened. But I would say when people reach out to me and they want me to speak at some event, it's always word of mouth. It comes because they maybe saw me on a tour or something, or they attended, or they're a boot camper, or they're somehow, it's always been my inner circle. Networking connections have always that's when it comes out of left field. It's usually through that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I heard some podcast the other day. There's actually a great podcast for creatives who are trying to start trying to run creative businesses. It's called Two Bobs.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys is Blair Enns, who I've recommended his book before. He wrote The Win Without Pitching Manifesto. And they were talking about how you rebrand yourself as an expert. And they were talking about redoing your website. Like, what do you do when you redo your website? They said that, sometimes they'll be working with these creative firms, and then they're worried about are our existing clients going to be threatened if we change our focus from this one specialty to this other specialty? Like, let's say you're an architecture firm and you got corporate interiors, and then you also got like residential multifamily. If you decided you want to switch to multifamily, are your corporate interiors clients going to feel upset? They said no. That ask your clients, how much time do you spend looking at your website, and they don't spend any time looking at your website. They were talking about is that you just update the website as this is your expertise, and the other people would be like, oh cool, you're focusing on that now, awesome.
Yeah.
But you're still satisfying your clients. And I think he also recommended against the idea of sending out the email to say, hey, we updated our website and we updated our mission statement, because nobody cares.
Yep. I agree with that. I feel like I've pivoted a couple times too, and I've never made an acknowledgement. I mean, back when Young Architect started, it was me blogging, writing blog posts, hundreds of them, cranking them out. And I'll be honest, I haven't sat down and written a blog post in forever. It's, and now I'm working on podcasts. I've got 2 podcasts. We got this one in the Young Architect podcast. I got the YouTube channel. We've got the boot camp, the Facebook group, all these other things. And I kind of, in a weird way, I've kind of at least quietly just stepped away from blogging. But if I ever wanted to go write a blog post, I can, it's that
Yeah.
door is still open. So
It's a funny thing that I think a lot of creators get tripped up on, actually, because I've heard a number of YouTube creators on some Facebook groups I'm in or that I've met in real life, and a lot of them will complain. They'll say things like, "Oh, my audience gets mad because I tried changing up my channel." Or I've seen people say, "Hey, I'm taking this channel in a new direction." Or they stress out about, "I'm going to make a new channel. I'm going to name it something else. I'm going to name
yeah,
it my name, but like with this funny thing afterwards." And I think that all those games about saying, "Oh, I'm going to make it this, I'm going to make it that," to me, that kind of seems like an ego problem. It's kind of like, oh, like it was your vision of yourself,
hmm
and you want to change your vision of yourself. And if you want to do that, just do that. But I think that there's a lot of people in the creative world who kind of think that their success is tied up in other people's perception of them, which
yeah,
in a case isn't exactly wrong, because it's like you want them to perceive you as an expert if you're selling them something. But um, I don't think people stress too much about it. As long as you're perceived as an expert, it seems like a lot of that worrying is unnecessary.
yeah. People back in the day, when I was in the early days of Young Architect, people used to, I had multiple people criticize me saying that I post too much personal stuff on the Young Architect account, and they're there for architecture content.
Yeah, but people are going to criticize you no matter what.
But my attitude was, then, it's my social media. I'm just
Yeah.
going to do whatever the hell I want with it. So,
Yeah, man.
but
I got a lot of people telling me, why don't you do like program tutorials on how to do these software things? And honestly, I think it's a very lucrative model. Like if you wanted to go to YouTube and
yeah,
you want to make a ton of money on YouTube, and you're good, you're better than average at any computer software, you should go do that. If you just want to do YouTube videos, you don't mind editing all that stuff, because like there's a huge market for that. You're going to get a lot of views, but it's just that, like, I know for me, my heart's not in that.
hmm
I'm not really interested in that. I'd be grinding
hmm
to get that done. That's just not really my thing. I don't want to be the ArchiCAD guy. No disrespect to that. It's just not really what excites me. And you kind of have to define what you want. And I was thinking about this week. Like I got to do that lecture, and I hadn't really. I guess I had thought about the idea of speaking, but not. It always felt like something way off in the future. Even though I had spoken at the conference, like you and I knew each other beforehand, so the idea of somebody else like hiring me to go talk kind of seemed far away. But then like I did get to go do that, and it was a good gig. It's like I got to go do that, so I got paid a little bit for that, and that to me. So like that's my path, right? That's this path over here. The path over here is, oh, you get to go be a speaker and you get to talk to a bunch of students, which is who you basically wanted to talk to anyway. And you could have compromised and gone down the road where you were making YouTube revenue on ArchiCAD tutorial or Revit tutorials or whatever. But then you're doing something you didn't really want to do anyway. You're probably making comparable amounts.
I've always found speaking to be highly rewarding. It's been, and in a weird way, when I first started doing it, I was terrified of it. It was really hard. It was really like stressful. And you know what the best part of it always was after it was over, be like, whew, I'm glad that's over now. But
Yeah.
I don't know, after doing lots of speaking, I feel like when I can look at people in the eyes and give them this information and talk to them face to face, it's powerful. There's an energy transfer that takes place, and that doesn't happen. If I was smart, I'd put all this information in a YouTube video, but the effect, the results wouldn't follow. They wouldn't be as powerful as if we're having a real in life person conversation. I'm excited for you, Drew. I'm excited for more speaking engagements for you.
Thanks, man. You told me you were working on something too, a little new expansion to your business, right? What was that?
Yeah. I've been focusing on this for the past couple of weeks, actually, and I feel like now I'm kind of getting ready to start talking about it a little bit more publicly. But if I'm not growing, and what is it? If you're not growing, you're dying, or whatever. What's that bad quote?
Yeah.
And I always need to be like working towards the next thing. That's just who I am, and kind of I've been doing a lot of like kind of looking at what Young Architect is and what it's become, and what do I love about it, what do I hate about it, and all of the things that come with that. And one of the things I really learned is, it's really, out of all the things that we do, it's the boot camp, man. It really is my favorite thing. It's my pride and joy. As crazy as it sounds, every Sunday, Monday night, I on each night I meet with between 40 to 60 people, and I talk to them and I figure out what's going on and I help guide them in the right direction and I get to know them. And that has been so helpful, and it's just been so rewarding in my life to have that. And so one of the things I've been kind of thinking about is, how do I take what I love about boot camp and translate it into other things? And, thinking about the Young Architect mission and all the things I love and business and entrepreneurship, I'm now starting to I'm going to be creating the Young Architect coaching program, which is going to be, boot camp's a group coaching program, but this Young Architect coaching program is going to be more one-on-one, individualized, me working with people, helping them figure out what their goals are and what they're trying to accomplish and what are the steps to making that happen. And yeah, and so I've been kind of just doing a lot of in some ways soul searching around this new aspect of Young Architect that I'm pretty excited about. And so I think I'm a lot closer to getting it out the door and being ready to get this thing on the road, and start taking on some clients probably end of this year, definitely before 2021 hits.
Nice.
So yeah, I've been putting a lot of time on that, making sure that I market it properly and explain and figure out. But I've got so much coaching experience with boot camp. This month, September, we started boot camp September of 2015, and it's been 5 years. 5 years, and I haven't done the math lately, but I think we've pushed about 1,500 people through the boot camp program.
So that rolling clock's coming up for some people, huh?
Yeah, but I would say most of them,
not really, because they all made it.
There's a hell of a lot of people that are done,
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I'd say a lot. Yeah, most of these people that from back in the day are all done with their exams. So, but yeah, so I'm excited about this coaching thing. I'm looking forward to getting this off the ground.
You know what I'm curious about? When my rolling clock would have ended.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I should make that a little party day, a little holiday for me.
Thank God you're done, man. Mine was.
I know, right?
Mine. That's what lit a fire under my ass. I was approaching. I got to I think I finished 4.5 years. Yeah, 4.5 years from when I started.
Mm-hmm.
But back then there was a 6-month retake policy. If I failed the
that's
test,
right.
I could only
reduced it to 60 relatively recently. I think it's somewhere around the time I graduated from college.
A couple years ago they brought it down to 60, which kudos to NCARB. That was a good move on their part. But yeah. Yeah,
man, that happened to one of my coworkers. I remember he did lose 1 or 2, and it was I think he had a few under his belt when he went into the recession, and then during the recession he kind of fell off the wagon. He was nervous about getting a job, and he was busy with trying to find a job. For whatever reason, he didn't take any exams. And then some date came by. I think he lost 2 of his tests. Yeah, I remember he was studying the big old MEB book. And this was in the old 4.0 version of the exam, and it's building systems or something like that. And I remember he took it once and didn't pass it. And then he took it a second time, and he took the whole week off the week before the exam. He's very shady about it. He wasn't telling anybody kind of what was going on, but we all kind of knew. And he did get it. And he told me that he told me later on when I was taking my exams, he was like, yeah, I did, he had lost some exams. He had to retake 1 or 2. That was the second one he had to retake. And he said that another date was going to come up. He was going to lose another exam if he didn't pass it on that try.
It was probably the transition.
That he had basically decided if I don't pass this, I'm just done. I'm not going to do this, which I hate hearing that from people, but thankfully he passed. So, he got it, but
yeah, I think they should get rid of this rolling clock thing. I don't know.
It does seem funny, right? Because, all right, if you pass them all, that time still rolls on. All right, if I passed construction documents and services was my first exam, you're telling me if I pass them all, then you think I still remember construction documents and services. But if I failed one at the end, you're telling me you don't think I remember construction documents and services anymore?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole system's broken, in my opinion. I think the biggest problem, and I talk about this all the time in my lectures, is I think the biggest problem with the architect exam is that, it's completely alien to how we went through school and how we work in offices.
Yeah.
Architecture is the most collaborative profession there is. And then boom, you get to the architect exam and everyone's on your own, and there's no guidance, there's no direction, and there's no real deadlines for people. And architecture
Yeah.
people need deadlines. If someone doesn't give me and Drew a deadline, we're not going to get it done. So I don't know.
That's one of the unique challenges that I tell people about with this exam. It's like, um, and you forget because, we kind of end up in our own little world, but I'll be talking to a friend of mine who's a high school teacher, or they know people who took the bar or people who took the SAT, and they're like, oh, when is the exam? And the question isn't when is the exam, it's when you're going to sign up for the exam.
Yeah.
And, my cousin took the bar, and I kind of got the impression from talking to her as I was watching her kind of approach it. And she was kind of like, yeah, like it's offered twice a year. I have to take it this time of year. So it's kind of like the train's coming. Are you hopping on board or not? And with architecture, it's kind of like, I know you're super busy with work and all. So you don't have to do this if you don't want to. But whenever you're ready to schedule it, go ahead and sacrifice your social life and then schedule these exams. And it's like the motivation and the self-discipline it takes to actually like close your eyes and take the leap is huge. And then you got to do it 6 times for each of these exams. And the sacrifice is pretty big, man. It's not like an unstoppable, it's not the kind of thing that can stop anybody who really wants it, but it does make it challenging.
Yeah. I know this guy on YouTube who just put out this video with some fantastic advice around the architect exam. His name is Drew Paul Bell.
I'm about to say it sounds a little bit familiar.
Drew, tell us about that video you just put out.
Dude, I had like a video where I talked about like my top 11 tips for passing the ARE. And it was kind of just me, like I had a bunch of points I wanted to hit. I kind of just talked until I was done. And, it's like, yeah, you kind of said it really well. And it's similar to what I say about architecture school. I say that to be successful at architecture school, you have to be good at architecture, but you also have to be good at school. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the exams. You got to be good at architecture, but you also got to be good at this particular type of exam. And you kind of have to treat that like its own beast. You have to tackle that. So, one of the blanket pieces of advice that I give anybody approaching this exam is like, one, you've got to study multiple sources.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense to just study one. And I talked to a lot of people about which studies material is good. And back in the day, it was between bright wood and ballast, and everybody had an opinion about which one was better. But what I realized was that all these people who passed had studied both. And that's how they had an opinion about which one was better, right? So you got to look at what people do, not what they say. And so that was one of like the big, broad pieces of advice that I give. But then the other broad piece of advice is like, well, it's not broad, it's specific. It's take your exams in the afternoon, not in the morning, because these questions are tricky. And, a lot of people are talking about how, oh, it's not fair, there's no right answers to these or whatever. And it's like, you may very well be right, but you still got to jump over this hurdle regardless. And so you got to be prepared for those tricky questions. If you're sleep deprived, you're taking an 8 a.m. test, you couldn't fall asleep the night before, you fell asleep at 1 or 2, you had to wake up at 4 or 5 or 6 to get up, get through traffic, get there on time, you're not going to be able to perform properly. And so like that's one of the other pieces of advice that I give everybody. And I'm not going to go through all 11 of the tips here, but like there's a bunch of other little tips that I felt like helped me out a lot, which is like working out, trying to keep the rest of my life in order.
Oh, I know.
And then and then another really important one too was like approaching it with the right mindset. A lot of people complain about NCAR, but it's not fair, this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, maybe that's right. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. And to me, I feel like, I'd rather approach it like, hey, I'm attacking this exam. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to win. And there's a weird part of my mind that kind of enjoys the idea that I'm going to lock my cell phone in this locker. Nothing else matters. I have an excuse to blow off all the other responsibilities in my life, and I'm going to be here in this room regardless of what happens outside. It is just me and this exam for 3 hours, no holds bar, whatever. Like I'm coming at it. and I get to retake this exam. So even if it wins this time, guess what? It's not going to adapt. Like, I'm going to win next time.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of attacked it like that. And that probably comes off as weird to a lot of people, but it worked for me. And it, you know, dealing with the stress of it all too also kind of sucks, but that helps dealing with the stress, approaching
Yeah.
it with that attitude of like the idea of predator versus prey.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you think you're the prey, you're not functioning fully up here anyway. Whereas if you see yourself as the predator, you think more clearly. And that's like a psychological thing.
Mindset's everything. I agree with you, man. And I've learned a lot of people who are at the very beginning of the process. It takes them a little while to figure that out, and it's more about this. I always say, if you look at studying for the architect exam like it's an annoying chore, this process is just going to beat the crap out of you. You're going to be miserable. But if we could shift that and change that to, using this as an opportunity to really learn how to practice architecture. If we look at it from that perspective, like, oh crap, I need to know this stuff so I could be successful. It's not just about passing a stupid test. That's like, I've learned that little shift in mindset propels people for years to get through this process. But, I think mindset is everything. And I love your insights when you say, how the hell can you fail a test that you're allowed to retake,
Yeah, dude.
or like what was another thing Drew says? He says, rather than I have to go study for the architect exam, I get to go study for the architect exam. This is an opportunity for me to succeed and move in the right direction.
Yeah, man. That's a mindset like I try to implement in my life all around, and something that like, I'm trying to do better with. But even with something like going to the gym, it's like I literally in my own mind, when I remember, oh, I'm going to the gym tomorrow, I don't say, oh, I have to go to the gym tomorrow. Oh, I got to get up early tomorrow. I'm tired. I got to go to the gym tomorrow. I say, no, I get to go to the gym tomorrow.
Yeah.
I like once I'm up and I'm out the door, I enjoy it when I get there. I get to stretch. I get to lift the weights. Like I feel better about it. I really do get to go do that. Like right now I can't because gyms are shut down. Like really, that was a privilege for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a privilege to be able to afford a gym membership in a sense, if you can do that, if you're able-bodied enough to go do that like that too. Same thing with studying, because it's like, this is interesting stuff. I mean, I picked architecture because I thought it was the best option on the table. I'm not sure I'd feel that way if I was studying like accounting methodologies, and that's because that doesn't really do it for me, right? But like I am kind of excited about the way things go together.
Yeah.
And it's also cool too because like I don't even have to figure all that stuff out. I just got to read the book, Although people have already figured out how to put these materials together, so we have conditioned space. I got running water in my 4th floor walk up, and I don't have to worry about the plumbing stinking. Like I got all kinds of stuff going my way, and like the way that engineering is actually fascinating. And it's like yeah, it can be a lot to remember, but like you get to know this stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's cool.
I remember do you remember, I felt like when I started architecture school, I started to learn about design and theory and history and why things were the way that they were. It blew my mind. I felt like it changed the way I looked at the world. And it was like this profound moment, and I fell in love with architecture school, and I've never looked back ever since. But I felt like when I was studying for my exams, my engineering exams, and I really started to get into the thick of it, same thing happened again, was when suddenly now I'm starting to understand structures more than I ever have, or engineering or sprinkler systems and all the different pieces. And it like changed how I looked at architecture in a very different way than I ever had before. So,
George, I don't know if you would relate to this or not, but I spent a lot of time thinking about this. We were talking in a car ride one time, and he was telling me how fascinated he was by like biology or chemistry. And for some reason, those classes never resonated with me.
Yeah.
Like when in high school, I had to try really hard to do well in chemistry specifically. Biology as well was one of those I just didn't really do it for me. But the way he put it was, he said that like when he found out that like these stages of photosynthesis are happening, he's like, it blew my mind, because that's like, wow, this is always going on. This was always going on. It is always going on. It's happening everywhere. That's what's happening. And when I look at like the stages of photosynthesis, like I don't care. Like I don't need to know the stages of photosynthesis for photosynthesis to work for me, right? But the way he put that struck a chord because I do feel similarly. I feel similarly to be like, oh, that's what's going on. Like, oh, that's how the plumbing works in the every building I've lived in ever. There's a couple of common things about it. It's like that's where the storm drains are going. Like like there's an inlet and an outlet. It has to be at the right elevations or something like that. Like there's got to be a gap in that
Yeah.
brick wall for an airspace. Like all that stuff's going on. Like what George said echoes in my mind. It's like, well, all this stuff is happening all along, and I just didn't know about it until
Yeah.
now. Like I find that super fascinating,
Yeah.
you know. And
Yeah.
it didn't click for biology, but in photosynthesis, but it it clicked for buildings for me.
Yeah. Yeah. An amazing experience when you start to see how these things fit together. We should get George to come hang out with us on this podcast, Drew.
We mentioned that a couple of times. I love that idea. George is like super fired up and passionate. Is one of the things I love about him.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't talked to him since since that happy hour we did. I haven't heard from. He's been quiet in my world. So yeah, maybe let's reach out to him and just get him in here.
Yeah, let's do that.
Christian Fraser too, man. I want to catch up with Christian. I haven't heard from that guy in a while.
Yeah, I feel like we normally catch up at like, I don't know. I was expecting to catch up with him at the summer series, but when it was going to be in person. But yeah, man, I miss those guys.
Yeah.
We're on some group chat today. Actually, our alumni group is figuring some stuff out.
Fraternity.
Yeah, from the Alpha Rho Chi fraternity.
Cool. It's still cool. I think it's cool that you're still active and engaged with that many years after you've graduated.
Yeah, it's cool when like we have a funny little cycle going on where it's like every year when they start the new semester, they have a new group of they have like the new group of like the president, the secretary, the vice president of like our little chapter. And then somebody figures out, oh wait, we have an alumni group on the group me. And so then they come in and then they talk about how like, oh, we want you guys to be more engaged. We're gonna make it better this year. And kind of every year they do that. Every year they're like, we want you guys to be more engaged. We're gonna reach out better. But yeah, it is what it is. They're doing their thing. They're students. I was a busy student. And we didn't have any alumni when I was there because we were the first class. So we didn't have a lot of like alumni outreach. But this year it's cool because what they're doing is, well, I've only seen a few of the text messages fly through, but they're talking about having like they're not upperclassmen, they're alumni, teach like how to do well on some of these computer programs. Mm-hmm. Because these students are not getting enough contact time with the professors. And so it sounds like George volunteered to teach some of these Adobe Suite programs. And yeah, man, the thing that was super valuable about the Alpha Rho Chi was it was like the networking.
Yeah.
And even if you're just networking within your school, it kind of broke down the barriers between like freshmen and fifth year students. And it allowed you to kind of exchange ideas with people who were like you wouldn't have had classes with otherwise. And now we're talking about extending out into the alumni. So I think that's cool too. And then at the end of the day, I mean, that's kind of the main thesis behind my channel, my YouTube channel. It's like trying to provide value to the people who are kind of just behind you on the assembly line, so to speak.
Now, is everyone Alpha Rho Chi in architecture? Is it an architecture?
It's for architecture and the allied arts. So, okay. I mean, it's focused on architecture, but, they'll take anybody within the allied arts. And we have a lot of people who start out in architecture and then change majors to construction or art or what have you.
When my girlfriend was in architecture school, she did a sorority, but it wasn't related. It was completely disconnected from architecture. And in some ways, she always says, like, yeah, I did the sorority thing, but in a weird way, like architecture became my community in a sense. She got I guess much busier with the architecture crowd than the sorority crowd. But
it's really hard to do a fraternity or sorority, I think, in architecture school. Mm-hmm. I guess I know. Well, I'm trying to think if I knew anybody who pulled it off. I don't know. I can think of one person who joined a sorority halfway through, and she dominated the first several years of architecture school. She was one of the top students, and then she joined one of the sororities, and she's still super involved with her sorority, I think, from what I can see online. And but then it looks, I think most of the people who started out and did a fraternity freshman year ended up either not staying with a fraternity or not staying in architecture.
I feel like my architecture school is a fraternity, an unofficial
Yeah.
one in a weird way.
Yeah,
There,
it kind of is.
there were very few women in my program. And I think that was why it was so, there were so many men. It was so male dominated. A lot of the, I think it started 50-50, but the first 2 years they mixed together the interiors and the architecture people, and all the females went towards interiors, and very few actually stuck with architecture. And the ones that did, they were badass, man. They were hardcore, and they really they were hard workers. Mad props to them, because yeah, there was just so many guys around all the time, and it was like a big fraternity party house in a weird
Yeah, see,
way.
our entire university was that way.
Yeah.
We were an engineering school, and I think we were something like 25% females, 75% male at the beginning, and then they kept saying, "Oh, it's getting better." It got to be like 30%. We were approaching 1/3. Um, but and like so they kept saying, "Oh, it was getting better," but I don't know, man. I felt like it was. I don't think it was a good environment, and I don't even mean
Yeah.
that from like a like oh, it's like some dude gotta have some girl around kind of thing like that. So much as it was even just that like I don't think it was healthy for either group of people because like I knew there was usually some girl I was talking to at least or something, right? And I felt like I learned more about how to interact with women. I'm not gonna say I understand women because I'm not sure anyone understands women, but like I'm not surprised by women anymore, and I felt like I grew in that area in college, even though there were not many girls around.
Hmm.
But there were a lot of dudes who didn't, and there were a lot of guys who I'd be coming back from studio at 4 a.m. working on studio, and they're out here playing video games, chugging more Monster energy drinks, fired up about how they're going to play more video games. And it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you're not like at that point, you're not doing anything good for your life right now.
Yeah.
And, and then, and dude, I saw a lot of these girls in that environment too, who, I mean, there were, there were a lot of women who were very good at what they did. And, undoubtedly, I some of like the best designers in our school. I mean, it just, that's the way it is, it's evenly split in terms of like caliber of skill. But then there were also some women who like because there were so many guys, we called it our mascot was the Hornets. We called it the Hornet Swarm.
Hmm.
There would be like one girl with like 7 dudes following her everywhere, holding open the door for her. And they were oh dude, there's one story. One time I was there would be people doing homework for girls too. And one time I was up in studio. It was like some off hour in the middle of the day one day. I don't know what I was working on, but I was leaving because I had an afternoon class. And I walked past these kids who we had a morning class together. It was like it was a drafting class. We were learning some software. And there was like one girl with like 5 guys around, and they were working on the homework assignment that we had gotten earlier that morning. And then they stopped me and then they were like, "Hey, did you do the homework assignment?" I was like, "No, we just got it today. I'll do it like tonight or tomorrow." And then they're like, "Oh, well, like, how do you do this one thing?" So I kind of explained it. And then she kind of like rolled her chair back as if to let me get into to like do it for her on the computer. But I jokingly said something like, "Oh, I'm not going to do it for you. I'm just going to," but I thought I was joking.
Hmm.
Like I thought I was kind of misinterpreting it and making a joke. And everybody kind of laughed awkwardly and a little bit more than I expected. But I was like, "That's weird." And I walked him through it. And then I said, "I got a class, so I got to go." Then that night, I was back in studio, and one of my buddies was on the other side of the pinup board from where they were sitting at that desk. And he comes up to me. He's like, "Dude, I was laughing so hard earlier because you came up and those guys were all doing that girl's homework for her. And they asked you, and you said, 'Oh, I'm not doing it for you.' And I could tell you thought you were joking, but they actually were doing that for her. And that's why they would laugh so awkwardly. And he was so annoyed because he was up there trying to get work done on an off hour. And then this pack of people came up and then they were all trying to like joke around and do homework for each other or whatever.
Yeah. There was a kid in my program who used to do everyone's homework for them, and it was really sad to watch
What?
because he was like this real nerdy Poindexter kid, and and then but the minute someone needed help, he was suddenly the most popular person, and he did so many people's homeworks. And in his mind, he thought he was the coolest, most popular person around. But behind his back, man, these people were just using this one kid to get his homework done.
Oh
And
man.
he just wanted to hang out with the pretty girls, and I don't blame him. But you know, it was I don't know, it was really depressing to watch. But yeah, there was quite a bit of that in my school. It came to doing other people's homework and shit.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I think it's cool to help out like your friends, and I mean, I had friends within the architecture fraternity who helped me like build a model once or twice, and it wasn't ever. I even felt like I think there was only one time that I had somebody like help me build a model, and honestly, I don't think he was even all that productive in getting it done.
Yeah.
But we were friends and we were kind of talking the whole time anyway. We were just hanging out, and it was a kind of a burden off my mind just that he fucking glued the facade of the model onto the building. Like that was basically all that went down. But even that was kind of helped me mentally in an otherwise super stressful week.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I also feel like it doesn't do you any good because you're the one out here. Like if you really got other people doing work for you, it's like you're paying a lot of money to be out here learning stuff. I mean, if you got other people doing it for you, it's like you're not really pulling as much value out of school as what you're there to get.
I hear that. I just had a girl on the Young Architect podcast who went to your school.
Really?
What school did you go to again, Drew?
It was called Southern Polytechnic State University, but then they merged with Kennesaw State University.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So she's like, I'm the third person from on your podcast who went to this school. I was like, who are the other two? She's like, Drew Paul Bell and Christian Fraser.
Yeah.
It was her name is Brianna Fountain.
Brianna, yeah, cool.
Yeah, she was at the summer series, and she she just graduated, and she's got a health blog, a mindfulness health blog as well. Super interesting girl.
Yeah, I've seen her posting online about that.
Yeah.
She was in the fraternity too, the Alpha Rho Chi.
There's women in that. It's not all guys.
It's a co-ed fraternity. It's
cool.
It's men and women.
That's cool. Yeah, but you had a mostly male school.
Yeah, well, we had a mostly male school, but yeah, I mean, we still had women in the fraternity, and Brianna was one of them. She would have been in the founding class as well. Yeah, she was coming up the ranks. I forget. She was a couple years behind me. I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 or 3, but yeah, we know each other pretty well. I think we were messing because we saw each other on the screen from the summer series, so we were chatting a little bit around that time.
Yeah, she's cool. Her podcast will be out in probably in like a week or so. So
nice.
Yeah, it was really good. I had a good time chatting with her. She's a really nice girl. So what else is on? What's on your plate, Drew? What's coming up for the next couple of weeks? Any big projects? Any new things?
Yeah, we got this big project where one of our clients, I think I've mentioned it a few times before, but I don't know. I feel like I'm supposed to keep details under wraps. We got a big client who's like relocating some of their stuff out to like Long Island. And they're this big Fortune 500 corporation. And it's weird, man, because it's like, I guess when you work at every scale, you learn all these different issues that different scales have, right? I remember working on single family houses, and it's like, man, you guys, you want something really great, and that's awesome, but like you don't have a lot of money, and then the budget comes back, and then you scale it back 1,000 times, and then it doesn't work. And then you got the corporate people who like, they probably have the cash, but then it's like, they got to move fast, and they're this giant organization. So, we're dealing with like, see, this is where programming matters. This went over my head at one point.
Okay.
It's like they were making a big deal about programming when I was in college and, studying for the AREs a little bit, talk about what it was to get programming down. But, I was working in a firm doing single family houses. So it's like you basically know the program already. It's like how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, do you want an enclosed garage? Do you want an open garage? Yeah. Like there's not a lot of variation, but with this big Fortune 500 company, now it's like, how many employees do you have? How many workstations do you need? How many offices? How many closed offices? How many like big offices? How many meeting rooms? How many small, medium, and large meeting rooms? Oh, you want to do hoteling instead? And so people check out a desk. Now it's like all kinds of crazy numbers. Numbers are shifting around like crazy. And then you got like technical workspaces where people are doing edits and to like media and all kinds of stuff. So, we developed some program a long time ago and we were working on that. And we met with a few heads because they got a couple different major league departments within
Mhm.
their business, within their corporation. And so we talked to some of those people about, hey, like what are the numbers? But then let's say, there's a couple of departments that they haven't talked to yet. So now it's like, okay, well, now's the time we got to talk to those people, but we had to get
Mhm.
everything straightened
Mhm.
out with our thing first. Now we're getting those other people in, and now they're saying stuff like, we split up all the info this one way, but now the new guy thinks we should divide it up some entirely different way. And it's like, it's not impossible. It's just that it's a lot of like work on Excel sheets, and then they want to be moved in like 6 months or something like that,
Yeah.
at least the first
Jeez.
phase. And it's I don't know, man. It seems like a big task. And then they keep saying, well, I'm confident that with this group we can do it, but I'm just worried that's going to come down on me. And I
It's
don't
all
know.
interiors though. It's all office interiors,
Yeah,
space
yeah, it's all
planning.
interiors,
Yeah.
and it's reusing a lot of stuff. But
That's
that's
another.
one of the other added challenges, though. All right, so these other people moved out. One of their competitors used to be in this building, then they moved out. Now they're moving in. They took all the chairs, but they left all the desks. So now the people are like, well, let's just reuse what's there. Let's just reuse the chairs. We just have to buy new desks. It's like, but guys, you're not listening. But like, all right, but your needs don't equal 1-to-1 all
Mhm.
the spaces that are there. So it's not like we still got to know. We think you guys have more employees than they did. You guys have asked for more private offices than what they had. So we still got to build some new offices. We can't just. You still got. That means you got to buy a new workstation that's like $5,000. You got to buy a new chair that's $700 or $800. And so they're sitting here looking at the budget, and then they're like, "That's too much. Tell me it's going to cost less." And and granted, we finally got in to see the building, and now we know that it's in pretty good condition. We can
Mhm.
reuse a lot of things. So some of our estimate numbers were a little conservative earlier on. So now, we can relax those a little bit. But it's hard because and then they're like, okay, we'll measure it this other way. You know, let's take this category of spaces and this category of spaces and assign a dollar per square foot amount that's like this. And it's dealing with Excel. And like, I'm not really fluent in Excel.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I feel like a fish out of water dealing with it sometimes. But the principal knows it really well. But the problem is the principal's super busy all the time. So sometimes it comes down to they're telling me to get it done, the Excel stuff, and then I'm out here fumbling around trying to get it done, but then taking way too long. I don't know. I'm still nervous about like the all the drawings coming up, but I think it'd be good though because it's a reasonably sized project. So I'm sure I'd get plenty of help with it
Yeah.
within the office.
Maybe just start. I don't know. It sounds like maybe just start cartooning it out, kind of seeing, identifying the deliverables and what needs to happen as
Yeah.
you move. This sounds like a lot of the projects I've worked on. A lot of office interior stuff. Lots of work, lots of communication and stakeholders and information being passed back and forth, but not like a portfolio piece though. Well, yes, this needs to get done. Like this isn't going to be like, I don't know. I feel like, but in some ways though, I feel like in my career, I learned so much from these types of projects with working in a team, dealing with contractors, coordination, moving through, dealing with stakeholders and, learning from mistakes, identifying red flags and stuff like that. So, you know,
Hmm.
sounds like a good project to keep you busy, Drew.
Yeah, man. I think it's going to be a good learning experience. So, you know, I can say it makes me nervous, but at the same time, I'm also pretty excited to be getting to take this on because it's a pretty good sized project and it's one that I'm kind of leading the way on.
Yeah.
So I think it should be cool.
Good for you, man. It's a weird time right now too. I feel like
Yeah.
on one side I'm hearing people getting laid off. Oh my God, I lost my job. And then another time I hear like people have work. It's like I feel like it's kind of all over the map with where we're at right now.
We've made a few hires at our office and because we hired like a new intern and I think like a new kind of administrative assistant. It's funny because it's like there was also a couple layoffs before, but I think that they were making more money. Like the intern is going to be making less. Um, and then you have this other dynamic where it's like, okay, you still got work, but now you have less people. So I think that we're probably at a good place right now with like like, I mean, I don't see all the numbers or anything like that, but it looks like we're at a pretty good place where we got some projects, we got people, we should be good. But sometimes it comes down to like you have something due this week, and it's like you couldn't hire someone, train them up,
Yeah,
and have them be effective before this thing's due. So
we just got to work with the tools we have.
yeah.
Do you do a lot of overtime?
Um, yes and no. I mean, I've been doing it a little bit lately. I'm gonna say no because I think that I talk to people who are like, "Oh, I'm doing 60 hours a week all the time," and I'm not
Mhm.
like that. If I'm going over, I'm somewhere around 45 to 50, and usually I'm right around 40. And honestly, like I've had a number of weeks where I'm probably below 40, but they're telling us to log our hours in a particular way, and
Yeah.
because it's like some kind of COVID reimbursable thing. And in terms of like billable hours, I'm probably below 40 on average
That's okay. That's
over the
normal.
last I don't know how long.
Yeah, that's normal. But you're back in the office now, right? Every day?
We're back in the office 2 days a week, and I got a site visit on Thursday, so I think I'm going to be technically in the office that day too. And then we're doing we would do summer hours where we work like an extra hour each day, and then we do a half day on Friday. So we get to our 40 hours by noon Friday or midday Friday, and then you take the rest of the day off. And normally that would stop after Labor Day, but then they're going to let us continue doing that because we're on a little bit more of a flexible thing working from home. We're trying out some new things. I like
Cool.
working in the office though. I feel like I'm more productive up there.
I hear that. I miss working in an office. I used to
Yeah,
even
you work from home full time.
I know. And even then, I mean, like last summer, I had a WeWork spot, and when I was out in Portland, Oregon, well, I was sleeping in my van every night. I still had an office for, most 20. I could stay there as late as I want, but yeah. Then even then, like even in Tampa, I had an office. I don't know. I've always had, in a weird way in my life, I've always had a comfortable working situation more than I've had a comfortable living situation, which
Yeah,
is kind of weird, but. Yeah, no, it's good working from home, but I don't know. I feel like sometimes I mean, I leave to go work out and that's it. And I go to the grocery store and I work out and I just stay in this apartment. And I mean, it's a nice apartment. I'm happy here, but I don't know. I miss going to places and seeing people and going out for drinks and having lunch with other, Drew Paul Bell and stuff like that. So
yeah,
we'll get
man,
back
me
there.
too. I'm going out to like I went out today to go drop off my laundry and then pick up some tacos. And it's like, that's it.
Yeah.
And it seems like I've been thinking about trying to get up earlier in the morning and like going out for a walk or something in the morning when I'm working from home because just getting out of the apartment in the morning I think helps me snap to attention
Yeah.
and be more productive. Like the walk to the office, the walk to the subway station, getting off on the train and at at the office, and it's like that, just that kind of break helps me like focus in on work when it's work time, and when I'm off, I'm off. Like right now, I might have stopped 15 minutes early or something like that,
Yeah.
and I got some assignment later on in the day. And in the back of my head, I'm still kind of thinking like, I think I just got to put in a little bit more work on that PDF, and I'm ready to export it. But it's like when you're in the office, it's easy to delineate that. I don't have to worry about, hey, should I log on later tonight and finish that up?
Yeah. I hear
Even though I
that.
generally do a good job at like not logging back on, but it's when you're on the deadlines or you like I got a site visit Thursday and they're starting construction anyway, so like I gotta get some stuff out. That's when I feel a little bit more uneasy, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I feel like when I have deadlines, I get fired up about it. And the time just flies by. And I've been sitting in front of this computer working on something for 12 hours. And I just lose track of time and space. All right, team. That's what's happening. Me and Drew. We're excited to be back. Drew, are we doing this next week again? I think so.
Yeah,
Okay. We're
yeah,
back
let's do
at
it.
the weekly, back on the weekly thing. Oh, another thing too, Drew. I didn't get a chance to talk to you about this. I figured out how we can get this actually out as a podcast rather than just YouTube videos. And so
Okay,
I'm going to work on that, is taking the audio from these conversations me and Drew are having and turning it into an actual podcast and putting it out on, I think we're going to use the same software we used for Young Architect podcast. So it'll be on like iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, all the different channels. But so yeah,
nice.
that'll probably happen in the next week or two.
Awesome.
Yeah, make it easier
Yeah, man, I
for
stepped
people.
up my mic. So
Yeah,
now,
you sound great.
thanks, man. Yeah, I was using my old AirPods there for a little while. I guess I was getting some complaints
From
from
me, from
you.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. We hadn't
um,
even released anything yet.
yeah. No, the AirPods. I love my AirPods. I can't live without them. Like when they break, I just go buy, just drop another $150. But I don't know. The audio is not the best.
Yeah, yeah. I love them, but just like for regular use. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad to be stepping up my equipment. Plus, I'm excited too about I want to do a couple of recordings like videos on the computer. Like I've had in my head some ideas for like YouTube videos I want to do that involve showing graphics more than like me standing up and talking.
Hmm.
So I'm fired up to finally have one here that like I can just got to get the tripod set up and shoot it, and maybe I got to get the text and the graphics figured out. But you know,
Yeah. I love it. Good stuff. All right, my friends. It was great chatting. Thanks, Drew. It's good catching up.
yeah,
Excited to
man, been
talk to you
great.
again next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it.